When you start talking about building an ecosystem, you have to kind of pry your way in and get to know. If you guys don't know, this is our tech ecosystem right here. These are the major players. These are the people that are making things happen. And the funny part is they don't know that now I'm a part of their ecosystem because they don't know me. So they're like, who is this little guy that looks like he just left the gym? I didn't go to the gym this week, so I'm sorry that everything doesn't look the way it should. But I've heard so much about you all, so we're going to get right into it. The reason why I'm doing it this way, they'll tell you their names. This is not a traditional format. We purposely aren't doing our panels like everybody else. The reason why I'm not doing that, these are superstars. Their LinkedIn pages and their bios speak for themselves. Everybody has a smart device. If you want to get to know them, look them up. I'm here to let you talk to them and have a better conversation. So we're going to do this right now. Out of everybody out here, have you participated in a program, event, or resources offered by any of the organizations presented on the stage? And I'm just going to have them say their name and their organization, and that's it, okay? So let's start right here.
Just name and organization.
That's it. That's it.
Linda Olsen, Tampa Bay Wave.
I told y'all we got some heavy hitters in here today.
Becca Brown, Spark Labs by Ark Invest.
Okay.
Getting straight to the point here, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Tim Holcomb, Embarc Collective.
Meghan O'Keefe, Tampa Bay Tech.
Now, real quick, Tim, thanks for believing in the vision and thanks for giving us your location. We appreciate that on site. We appreciate you believing in us and giving us your space yesterday. I want to say that to you face to face, so thank you very much. If you guys don't know, we were at Embarc Collective and they believed in this vision. They were the first person to open up and give us their space. But as I said, how many of you have participated in any of the events with any of these four people up here? Okay, look, see, this is the ecosystem, goes to prove my point. Now, of those who said yes, did it connect you to something or someone outside of your immediate sector or demographic? Yes? Okay, cool. So we want to talk about what that actually means and where we go from there. Meghan, I told you. You run the tech council. When you look at who's in the room at your events versus who's actually building tech in Tampa Bay, what's the gap that you see most clearly?
Well, I'm starting off with a hard one. I thought I was moderating too, so I really wasn't prepared for this. But for those of you that don't know what Tampa Bay Tech does, we're kind of like the tech-focused Chamber of Commerce for the region. So we really focus on the more established companies where these organizations really focus on the startups. So we're focused on more of the enterprise companies that have been growing their companies here, or maybe they're an international, national company that has a office space here, growing a workforce here. But I guess a gap is, maybe in between kind of some of those smaller mid-sized companies. Where do they really fit into the ecosystem? What are the things that they really need to be successful to help grow? Sometimes I think they get lost in between when we're, working with the Accentures, the Googles, the AWSs that are the powerhouses in our region and that are easily giving sponsorship money to different organizations and companies and being able to support monetary-wise. Some of the times those other companies that are growing and headquartered here sometimes miss some of the help that they might need.
So you're looking like pretty much maybe after that initial Series 1 or right after they've gotten that initial investment, they're kind of starting to make revenue, they're making way, but now they're before the scalability, but they're at least getting it going.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tim, Embarc has a 96% founder survival rate, and I think that number is extraordinary. Who isn't in that number though? Who's not getting to Embarc in the first place?
Who's not getting to Embarc in the first place? Wow, that's a good question. I don't know because I don't have visibility to that. And I can't speak for the rest of the programs, but I think we probably share a common theme that at the end of the day, it's all about the founder, and the company is a byproduct of the investment that we make in providing the resources that founders need to go do what they do. And I think so much of what founders face, the challenge they face. Probably the biggest one isn't figuring out a problem that's meaningful, isn't identifying the addressable market, and frankly, it isn't building the platform. It's learning how to get comfortable with uncomfortable. So I think the group that we probably don't see are those that want to start companies but haven't plugged in yet, or see the value or see the opportunity, maybe is a better way to put it, plugging in to organizations like you have here on the stage that have resources that can help the navigation and launch and growth and scale of companies that they want to start.
Do you think maybe we could help that if we had more of a centralized port of letting everybody know, now that you're here, these are the organizations? Because I feel sometimes collaborations are missed and people just don't have the information they need.
Boy, I'd be interested in anybody else's thoughts on this, but I think part of it is messaging. I tell founders all the time, it's not good enough to be good. You got to tell the market you're good, and that's part of what a challenge we face in Tampa Bay. There is no reason why Tampa Bay shouldn't be viewed as one of, if not the leading market certainly in the state of Florida. And the state of Florida itself is a powerhouse when it comes to the rankings in higher education, the rankings in startup activity, the rankings in funding raised, on and on and on. But part of it is just telling the story. And so I think part of it is on us to be more proactive in communicating out to the market, the broader market, about the resources that are available to founders who are interested in starting companies.
Well, luckily we now have Tampa Bay Tech Week. Becca, Spark Labs is focused on the most disruptive innovation categories: AI, robotics, energy storage. Those are also categories with the steepest barriers in entry. How do you build inclusion into a program that by design requires cutting-edge technology expertise?
These are great, hard questions to start with. Yeah. Let's get some espresso.
We need more coffee on the stage. Coffee on the stage.
First of all, I'm so grateful to be here. This is an amazing
Thank you.
opportunity to work with our ecosystem and be part of this amazing event. So thank you for that. So a bit about Spark Labs by ARK Invest. We are an incubator, and we are supporting early stage startups that are generally aligned with the ARK Invest themes that were just mentioned. AI is the biggest, of course. We also have robotics, energy storage, blockchain, and multiomics and life sciences innovation. And we're supported by ARK Invest, who has championed innovation in those 5 key themes for over a decade. And it is an exciting time. Obviously, AI is something that we are all talking about, whether you're a startup founder or a large corporation or just a person trying to figure out how to leverage this amazing tool. So what we're doing for our founders is giving access to the insights that the ARK research team provides, which is really unparalleled. This is the first time that ARK has really supported an early stage incubator, and I think that access is definitely helpful for these founders as they're building in an unprecedented time. And we're also supporting them in a customized way, to your point, because this is sort of an uncharted territory. And we're providing support around fundraising. You know, valuations have skyrocketed because of AI, whereas a couple years ago, if you were raising a pre-seed or a seed round, it was pretty sort of comparable to price based on other companies in the space. That's changed. So we're supporting them around capital raising, around go-to-market and customer acquisition. And I think the biggest benefit we're offering is creating a community, because this is a strange and exciting time, and having the community of other founders and advisors and supporters that can be with them on that journey is really critical.
Awesome. And thank you for that. Because, I mean, I think, as Tim, you pointed out, we have a messaging problem, but we could possibly have a slight coordination problem. So with coordination, we really don't have a shared infrastructure. So Linda, you've been at this since 2008. So I didn't know you started when you were 24.
18, actually.
What's the collaboration attempt that should have worked and it didn't? And what broke it?
So yeah, I started Wave as a meetup group in 2008. Just to put things in perspective, the Wave that people know today really launched more in 2013. But yeah, we've been at it a minute or two. You know, in the early, I say for like the early Wave days, I let me just back up and say, I always think the spirit of collaboration has actually been really strong in Tampa, and is one of the reasons why I think Tampa has seen this trajectory that you're seeing right now in our ecosystem. When you have a handful of nonprofits that have scarce resources, we don't have Fortune 100 companies here who can strike really large checks and really invest in a lot of the community ecosystem building. You're leaving it on the shoulders of very busy, overworked, underpaid nonprofit leaders to figure out how to squeeze in extra collaboration time to make something big happen. Yeah. It's the spirit has always been there. Probably the biggest example I can think of, and again, it kind of goes to we as a community have always kind of been like that. When the EDA had the big Tech Hubs grant application that opened up a few years ago, our community was behind in being ready to be put forth a really compelling grant application for that. The prize, if you will, from those grant applications was north of $50 million. That would have gone a long way to really move the needle and do something really exciting here. We were able to get USF to kind of step up and try to take a lead on the effort. We had collaboration. I will tell you, the first time ever, what I saw with that process was Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and Pasco County all agreed to come in equally with matching dollars to support that effort. This was, I mean, people who've been here a decade plus, like, you just don't see that level of collaboration across the counties. So it's there, particularly in the tech startup ecosystem. I honestly think it's really often more of a resource issue than an intentionality.
I mean, and I would still kind of go to the infrastructure. And I think, like you said, one of the things we benefited from on the East Coast was that we had the Knight Foundation. And the Knight Foundation had a lot of money they were giving away at one point. So that helped. So I guess one of the questions I will put out for everybody, what does each organization on this stage do that the others can't? And what does each organization do that overlaps in ways that might be creating gaps rather than closing them? All four.
Let's start with Meghan.
It's fine. I mean, I kind of already said it. We're really different from the three of these because we're working with the more established companies. We function like a chamber of commerce. So we're open to non-tech companies as well, as long as you're kind of tech forward. You have a tech department as well, because we're really focused on bringing you tech programming, professional development opportunities for your tech leaders, your tech employees, and anybody else that just has interest. And then the networking beyond that. So whatever you need to be successful in the area, streamlining those relationships with workforce providers, training providers, really anything that you need, we kind of help with that like an economic development corporation, and we really partner with a lot of those as well. So that's really how we're different. We don't, I mean, maybe some of our tech programming overlaps a little bit. I know, Becca, you guys have a CIO, CTO group as well that you're doing programming with. But a lot of times, like, I have all these organizations on our board so that we know what's going on in the startup space. Are there things that we can collaborate on, and just making sure that the communication between what we're doing and what they're doing is there, so that we know that we're not overlapping. And I mean, like Linda said, we're all nonprofits, and so we're a team of three. We don't really have the bandwidth to do a lot more. We'll have over 50 events each year that we put on ourselves, so we really need to collaborate and partner as much as possible with these organizations, with the Florida High Tech Corridor, with all of our member companies. Otherwise, we just won't be able to do what we do, daily, monthly, and annually.
Sounds like we need some of these for-profits to step up and put together a public-private fund so you guys get the money that you need. I think we should round
He
applause
said
for
it,
that.
not
Let's
us.
just say-
We'll be in the back of the
Absolutely,
room
absolutely.
taking checks. I do want to add. I do want to add to that. For those who don't know about Embarc, we're a startup platform. We're not really an incubator or an accelerator or hub for what those terms mean. I think the reality is we probably all do a lot of the same things. It really, the differences come in how we do what we do and for whom we do it, if that makes any sense. We have a membership, a community of over 300 founders and co-founders, about 140 early stage tech startups and growth companies. We're relatively agnostic, a little different than Spark Labs at least. We're relatively agnostic to the sector. You got to be a real company. You got to have some customers. You got to have a technology component to it. Not surprisingly, our community reflects Tampa Bay and the broader state of the Florida with concentrations in healthcare and life sciences and cybersecurity, tech, and financial services and defense and national security. But I think, so I think we all are very complementary in what we do. We probably vary in how we do what we do. We don't really have cohorts like maybe the Wave does, but we do onboard new companies into our community. We don't really have a demo day, so there's not a hard stop after a few weeks. We have companies that have been in our community, plugged into the resources that Embarc provides for 3, 4, 5 years. We always like to say that we want them to leave, go put a name on a building, and give some money back to Embarc to support our not-for-profit mission. But I think the reality is there's a lot of complementarity in what each of our organizations do.
So I like that. If we're in unison there, I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. Not that the questions have been easy, but if we have what I now see, more so, we do have a shared infrastructure. You guys are working in unison. It's not like you don't know each other. What's the one thing we need to build here to start making this a little bit more cohesive and make sure you guys get the money? Because if you are the ecosystem in the way we see it, there has to be funding. So is it a talent pipeline? Do we just need a funding database? And I don't think a funding database just for I would say for the companies themselves. To me, it sounds like this is a funding issue, and if all 4 of you sat on a board for like a public fund that was then distributed through your nonprofits, why wouldn't we just structure it that way so we get the money? There's too many companies here that are making millions and billions off of our city, but what are they actually giving back?
Well, I'll jump in again. I would advocate that it's all about the data, it's all about the metrics, and all about the impact. And just giving money for the sake of giving money doesn't really do anybody any good. But if you can demonstrate the value of that dollar that's being donated, in the case of our organizations here, at Embarc, our mission is a Florida-based mission. But well over half of our companies, probably 70% of those, are from the Tampa Bay region. So when we talk about job creation or we talk about funding raised, we're talking about impact directly in the community here.
So hold on, I'm gonna challenge that there. Becca, I raised $20 million. I come to you with $5 million. What does that do for your organization in 1 year?
And your role in that situation is? You're a company or you're an investor?
I'm going to put together this public
fund?
Trust fund,
okay,
saying what I'm going to do for the Tampa Bay ecosystem. We go out and we speak to the for-profits and we tell them we want them to donate into this fund because I'm giving the money back to a nonprofit. So it's a tax write-off for them. So we're basically building a Tampa Bay endowment. I come to you now with $5 million because we heard multiple times the signal is they need more money and they need more resources, right? Okay. So I'm now giving you that $5 million. What immediately changes for Spark?
well, as a nonprofit, we're not writing checks, so essentially we would be able to deploy capital in that scenario. I think that, that is just one piece of it, and I agree with what was just said, which is I think we do have a great collaborative spirit here, and I'll share my personal story. I moved here at the end of 2020 from New York City, COVID move, was operating my firm remotely, had clients remotely. A friend of mine, Mike Packer, who's a partner at QED, said, you should go to these Embarc Collective tech transplant meetups. I thought, that's a great idea. I need to meet people. Started going to Embarc, had a great experience, made tons of connections. I learned about the Tampa Bay Wave. And thanks to Linda and her team, was invited to join as a mentor and got into that ecosystem and thought, oh my gosh, there are these incredible things happening here. Then I met Meghan, and she invited me to the St. Pete Connects meetups in St. Pete, because that's where I live. So for me, I think that's reflective of a lot of the founders that we have at Spark Labs, where you sort of are embraced by this amazing community. So I think capital is just one piece of it. And at Spark Labs, if we had $5 million, we would start looking at the 48 companies that are with us and determine, are any of them eligible for an investment? But I don't think it's just a capital question.
And that's why I'm saying I wouldn't look at the funds for just an investment into other companies. Would that fund help you with resources? Would that help you with operations? As Meghan said, she's a team of 3. So if I come to Meghan with $5 million, I'm assuming she could become a team of 10. So is it money for resources, or is it just resources? Because that's the only thing I'm kind of conflicted on, where you guys are leading. And
Well, it's obviously money for resources.
okay.
But what I was trying to drive to is, if you go sit with a Paul Shukri at Raymond James, you go sit with a John Corus at TGH, and you say, give me money, they're gonna ask why. And the answer to the why is job creation, growth, revenue generation, and we're making an impact in building a community here in the Bay Area.
Okay, so you went right into that second question, but I want you to. So now, with that being said, Tampa Bay's tech workforce has grown by 28.5% in 5 years. So we do have a growth in workforce, so you have your why. But who got those jobs, and who's being trained for the jobs that don't exist yet? Linda?
Well, I don't know if I am an expert to talk about workforce development in the region. We
Meghan,
work
we'll
with
let you go next.
technology startups, right? But I will tell you, I was at a business dinner last night with the St. Pete Innovation District team and the Tampa Bay EDC and others, and exactly what we were talking about as it relates to the new blue tech ecosystem that's kind of emerging here. Again, connecting the dots to make sure if we're going to invest as a community to grow that ecosystem, we have to make sure there's workforce here. And if you're not familiar with what's happening at the port, I mean, these are fantastic AI-proof jobs, both white collar and blue collar, very high wage paying jobs, and there is a whole slew, I forget what the percentage was, of people who are getting ready to retire, and they don't know where they're going to find the people to keep our port going. And the Port of Tampa is actually looking to expand because they have thousands of acres here. People don't know how amazing our Tampa port is. Do you realize we do more cargo through our Tampa port than Miami does? Look at that. That's right. Do you know we used to build ships during World War II here for the military? They're looking at investing in things like more shipbuilding and other activities here. But again, everyone comes back to, if we're going to be fostering these ecosystems here, where's the workforce? And so there are conversations happening both like at the university level, Hillsborough College, St. Pete College. But again, that's not where my deep expertise is.
Go ahead,
I can talk a little bit more on that, because we do have a workforce initiative, and our employers are the biggest workforce hiring companies in the area. So it is something that we always have to think about and understand where these people are and what are the roles that these companies are hiring for too. And so right now we're at a really hard stage because we've had so many people move to not just Tampa Bay, but Florida. So a lot of that workforce is virtual, so it's hard to find them. And so that's an issue. And then we're also, I think it's like 90 miles within 80 colleges and universities. So our entry-level workforce is like unbeatable here. But the problem is a lot of our employers are on hold for hiring those positions because of AI right now and some other things. But that is where the other issue is just like there's this extreme hold on what these new entry roles are going to be and what that looks like. So through Tampa Bay Tech and our foundation, right now we're kind of working towards understanding what that looks like. And we call it the Tampa Bay Tech Apprentice Network. So we really think apprenticeships in tech are the way to go to really help fill this gap. So we're working with employers like Accenture, Geographic Solutions is a big employer in the area, and helping them understand what apprenticeships are and how to open up roles and have their own sustainable programs. And so it's been, I think last year, through our employers, we hired 31 apprentices, and I know like Accenture themselves hired 18, and they're gonna be hiring 16 full-time now as full-time Accenture employees. So the retention's higher. It solves a lot of issues, but we're just trying to help employers understand how to rethink their talent pipeline and how to continue to grow their pipeline, because you can't miss out on training specifically for what your company needs are, especially around technology, but also you can't miss the mark on bringing those entry-level people into your organization, because who's going to be the next people for your leadership roles as well, and a lot of employers forget about that.
That was an amazing answer. You actually answered like 2 more of my questions, because I was going to ask you, what does the talent pipeline look like compared to what it needs to look like in 10 years, and you just told me exactly. So apprenticeships and that recruitment is going to be a major point. Thank you very much. Becca, ARC Invest came to St. Pete from New York. Kathy Wood bought capital and credibility. What does Tampa Bay have that New York doesn't?
How much time do we have? Honestly, it is an amazing place to live, and I'm very candid. For me, I didn't ever envision myself living here, but it was a COVID-driven move, and I'm so grateful for that. This is an amazing place to build, to live, to work, to make connections. Every day I'm so grateful to live here, honestly. It is a gift. I think we have a very business-friendly climate here in Florida, very tax-friendly climate that's helpful for any business owner. We have an amazing talent pool, as has been talked about. I think this area is unique in that it hasn't been kind of saturated. We look at other markets in Florida, like Miami and Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, and I think that we still have this kind of earlier stage vibe, which is so awesome. I feel the energy every day, definitely at Spark Labs, and I think people want to be part of that, especially early stage founders. And that's something that, it's sort of an intangible, and if you hear Kathy talk about why St. Pete, she talks about the vibe, which is an intangible. It's a feeling, and that's something that when people come here, and I hear this so frequently with our founders at Spark Labs, something drew them to this area, and once they experienced it, they didn't want to leave. And that is such an amazing thing. And it's not something that you can market on a billboard or, publicize. You have to feel it, which I think is almost our secret sauce.
I mean, I agree. I left Miami 2 years ago, and I would never go back. Tampa is just different. It's definitely more inviting. I think I love the fact that it's kind of city and country at the same time. And being born in Alabama, I like the fact that you can just go up to Zephyr Hills or you can go to New Tampa. It's like, oh, I'm back in the country. And then you can just come back to downtown. It's like, okay, I'm safe again. There's going to be electricity. So I think one of the amazing things that we have to get our founders and our investors to come here is definitely this circle. And I do want to be clear, because I was going to save this for a closing, but I want to set the stage for the second part. Don't think my tough questions are just to the premise of not how much I love the people that are on this stage, because we have to look at the generosity and the grace that was given, because this is called Tampa Bay Tech Week. And Tampa Bay Tech could have easily came to us and said, no, figure something else out. And by having that grace, this shows you that this is a collaborative effort. So I do want to be mentioned of that. So thank you. Now we're going to go to school for the next 20 minutes. Real quick, we're going to talk about the ecosystem gap audit. So this is a part of my IWP workshop. So I just want you guys to kind of give feedback. Whoever wants to grab it, you can take it. Just want to see in our ecosystem, I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to tell me where should this person go and how would you guide them. Cool? They did not know this was happening. I'm just letting you guys know. They're going to be very upset at Jesus, not at me, because this is what I do. So, a first-generation college graduate from East Tampa with a software engineering degree and no professional network, where should he go? What should he do?
Meetup, yeah.
Yeah, meet up. I
Get
was
into
going to
the
say,
microphone. I hear you. They can't. Tell them.
well, we've got a lot of technology tech meetups. I see Charlton back there. I know that we've got, he's involved with several of them. I thought I saw Tyler here earlier. I know he's doing a lot of work in the AI space. But I would say go join a meetup and get engaged with others in the community. And number one. Number two, you got to figure out what the hell you want, pardon my language, what the hell you want to do and where you want to go.
There's no
and then you can
children here.
plug in
We're all
with that as
adults.
well.
I like that, but I think that's a big thing. And I've noticed here, it wasn't that much on the East Coast of Florida, but y'all love Eventbrite over here. Like, you can solve your whole life with Eventbrite. Luma is for us techie people, but Eventbrite is popping. I'm like, yo. So a founder from Latin America trying to relocate and scale a fintech startup in Tampa with no existing investor relationships. Who's taking them?
We'll take him or her.
Tell us why and what's the program now?
Well, I think that profile aligns with the support we can offer. It depends on where that person is in the relocation effort. We are not set up for remote support at this point. So if that's the case, I would say that Linda and her team might be a good starting point. But if the person is here and wants a community, then we would be a great spot.
I was going to say, we run a variety of programs, including a FinTech Accelerator. Our companies, or our programs, we recruit nationally and globally. So we've now worked with companies from 30 different countries. We actually have a playbook to help companies relocate here. We've helped over 30 companies relocate into the U.S., primarily in the Tampa Bay region. That's what we want to do. And in fact, I keep saying Tampa Bay needs to get into the import business. We want to get into the import business. We want to import the job creators here. When they find the ecosystem here, we had our last cohort, which just finished, a month ago, our cyber cohort. We had I'm looking at Jonathan Trong from the Tampa Bay Wave team. Thank you for being here. We had a company in there where one of the founders actually grew up here in Tampa, went to Jesuit, but has spent the last 15 plus years out on the West Coast in that tech scene out there, and had no idea that Tampa Bay had any kind of cyber tech community here. And we here in Tampa think we got it going on when it comes to cyber, and we can't even get the word out behind the four walls of the Tampa Bay region very well. So he came to this program, and within the first week, he's like, I'm staying, and brought his 20 employees here. They're moving here this month. So when people find Tampa, they see Tampa, they fall in love with Tampa, but we aren't doing a big enough job yet to bring them in
I
here.
think you just gave us the thing. Find Tampa, see Tampa, stay in love with Tampa. I think that's what Santiago, can we put that in for Visit Tampa Bay? No, I'm just like, okay.
Well, I know what Santiago's vision statement is. I don't want to.
Find Tampa.
That's their vision statement. Isn't that amazing?
So I was close.
I feel like we do that too, but with the tech community side.
Absolutely. We just got to make one just for the tech, though. That's everybody. Okay. A black woman founder with a working product and early revenue who can't get a warm introduction to the right investors. Who's taking her?
We'll take her.
We'll take her too.
Yeah.
I think it's and you touched on the investor side. I think that's a big area of opportunity here for our region, regardless of the founder. We got some really good early stage, like a Florida Funders and a Tampa Bay Ventures and some others. But the practical reality, even though Florida leads the way in many respects in venture activity, number of transactions and funding, we just don't have a concentration of local investors, which puts the onus on the founder to syndicate rounds by traveling outside the state. And that's a tough sell. So if I'm advocating on behalf of the broader corporate community, it would be to get involved, to look for, and it's not like Florida doesn't have money. Number one in the nation for the number of high wealth individuals that have a homestead in the state. So the reality is there is money here.
I want you to continue, but I wanted to add to that. Do you guys by any chance know how much money is raised in Miami annually for their VCs? Anybody? If you had to throw a number out there, what would the number be? How much? No, that's a little bit too much. If it was a trillion, I wouldn't have left. I love y'all, but I'm just saying, I would have stayed. I would have figured it out some way. Go ahead.
5 billion.
3. You're close. It's 4.3 billion. Now, they're number 6 in the nation. Number 9, excuse me. They're number 9 in the nation. But there's a part to that I want you to understand. They're pulling in 13x the amount of Tampa. We have a lot of work to do. And it's not because we can't be Miami. Now, Miami has a different channel. Miami has a lot of their stuff that goes directly to South America. That's why if you go in 2 or 3 weeks, Emerge Americas with Melissa Medina, that's a huge thing. That's the gate. They literally call themselves the gateway to South America. So a lot of investments happen there. But we need to get ourselves into that $1 billion range, and I think that's when we're going to see a major shift. So to get us to that $1 billion range, who are we recruiting? How do we get them here, and how do we convince them to spend their money in Tampa?
You're talking about recruiting investors? I mean, if you really look at a lot of what WAVE has been doing since we launched our programs, even back, I'm looking at Ty Mathan here from our meetup days. You know, we've been talking about this since 2008, to be quite honest. You know, we have tried various efforts over the years to try to educate, if you will, or invite people to become investors or come in to investment funds. You've got folks like Florida Funders who have made some headway there. The reality is, though, for a lot of high net worth individuals, it's hard to convince them to put that kind of capital at risk. Asking people to become early stage investors and change their investment risk profile. I say you almost have a better chance of changing someone's religion than their risk tolerance. So yes, over time you're going to see some organic growth here locally. What we have been doing is also been spending a great amount of time working on building a national investor network, because when I always say FOMO is the most powerful tool we can use there. When we are bringing outside capital in and local investors are missing opportunities, that's when you're going to start maybe seeing some change. So, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think it's a bad thing that we are attracting outside capital into the region. I think that's a good thing long term. But you kind of can't just do one thing in isolation. I think you need to do a holistic policy there.
I think the reality is Miami 10 years ago is not the Miami today. So it takes time, number one. Number two, you got to have a very concentrated message. One thing that Miami has done a hell of a job at is getting the word out. They're mayor of however many years.
How can we help? That was his recruitment.
Let me finish. One thing they can do, what we can do, is get the message out. Because founders are not going to come here just for the hell of it, right? They're not going to come here just because we got beautiful weather, you know, ease to get around and cost of living's down. We've got to have a message, and the reality is, and somebody mentioned earlier, when you talk about cyber, where else would you want to be? When you got ConnectWise and KnowBe4 and ReliQuest and Align all within a 15 square block of each other. There's no place, I don't know, in the world that you'd rather be if you want to be in technology, in the security area, than Tampa Bay. Do we do a good job of that? I know, see USF in the back here with the Bellini School. It takes a while, and we got to get the message out. We got to bring the interest in. Capital always follows opportunity. And when you've got $4 billion cyber companies, 4, not 1, not 2, 4. We already have a platform that we can articulate around the success that technology companies have had, will have, and can continue to have in the Tampa Bay region.
And I want to add, just so you guys understand the context of what he's talking about, the mayor of Miami, what he actually did right after COVID, as you know, Florida was one of the states that stayed open, and he actually just got on Twitter, and a lot of companies were complaining about being stalled and shut down, and he got on and he said, "How can I help?" That was his whole campaign. And the How Can I Help campaign turned into some of the biggest companies relocating, and they have a organization over there that works directly with the Miami Foundation, where they were offering tax incentives for them to have buildings, move their organizations. And then it got kind of weird because people were like, oh, I'm going to live in Boca and commute to Miami. No, you're not. So a lot of people came over there and they're like, okay, we're going back. This didn't work out the way we thought. But it brought in a lot of money really fast, and that was the shift for Miami when the money started coming in. So I definitely know exactly what you're talking about there. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is not our realm at all, but I mean, the obvious thing here is too that there's so much wealth here. So the education needs to be there for the people that are spending money on real estate and traditional investment avenues to understand what it means to invest in technology and what that looks like, because I think that is a big opportunity for our ecosystem, because a lot of people are already doing all these other investments. And then the other thing is, I saw Rachel come in the room, but you know, with TGH Ventures, these organizations that can do their own venture program or their own kind of pilot programs with the companies that are here locally would be like amazing to see. That's kind of another idea that, you know, why reinvent the wheel, or why try to get investors outside of the ecosystem? Who are the companies here that are a little bigger, a little established, that maybe there's a kind of playbook like what TGH Ventures is doing that we can relay to some of these corporations that are more established, have a little money, and can help these startups understand how to be enterprise ready and how to grow a little quicker.
All right, so we're going to give you guys the rare opportunity. We'll have any questions. I want to take a couple of questions real quick. Yes, absolutely. You can come up to the front because there's no other additional mics, but you can say it out loud if you want to. You're fine. Okay, go ahead.
One, I just want to echo what Rebecca said. I might be kind of naive because I've only been here 9 months. I'm a 4-time software company runner or owner, operator, in that $450 to $250 million range. So I totally agree. Like that size business nationally, I don't think they know what's here. Like I'm in awe, to be very honest with you, in this event, in the talent in this area. And you just walked out the door. I don't think the world knows. Like I really don't think they know that small to medium-sized business, this is a phenomenal group to be a part of. The one comment I would make is I was in Naples last week, and I heard Adelio Sanchez, the founder of YouTube, speak. I was in a room with about 150 people, telling them that I'm presenting at this amazing event, and nobody knew about it. Like, the good news is, I was telling everybody, and they were bummed that it was only 5 days away and they couldn't arrange to come, but they were excited about looking at attending the next time and learning about it. And so that was my one question. What are you guys doing to get a more national presence in terms of thinking about bringing that? I love the $50 to $250 million pre-IPO, pre-exit business. What are you doing to bring those kinds of businesses to the area? And how are you connecting Tampa to the other wealth that sits within maybe a 90-mile radius of this area?
Well, I will tell you, I think all of us are running our various programs and services with the goal and intent of not just attracting, but also supporting local, keeping them here. But I would tell you, I don't think any of the 4 of us really look at ourselves as recruiting companies here as really our primary objective. Like I said, I'm trying to build out more resources so we can be intentional, but intentional with the technology startup companies. So we're a little bit more in a niche and some verticals and things like that. But to your point, I think you're making the case I think all of us are saying, which is, why doesn't the world better understand how amazing this ecosystem is here? You get to keep more what you make here than any of these other states with the income tax rates. It's an amazing place. Plus, you get to live in a beautiful climate. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the beauty of the region. I mean, I love driving to work because I get to see the water on my drive in, and I'm like, it puts a smile on my face before I walk in the door. But you have to make sure the region is offering business reasons for businesses to want to be here. And it's not always capital. I think capital is an element of it. It's a welcoming community. We make introductions for folks. They can find their talent. They can find their lawyers. They can find all of that. We just do a terrible job at getting the word out.
I think to also answer one of your questions, Tampa Bay Tech Week is going to be launching hyper-local innovation investment. So the goal of what we're actually going to be doing is to expose exactly what you're talking about, to actually recruit companies. And we have a weekly newsletter that's called Tech Beats and Bites. We pull all the data from multiple sources, and we send out the signals of where investments are going, where money is moving, and the opportunities. So our goal was to not only have them on stage, but we had to analyze the gaps before we even decided to launch Tampa Bay Tech Week. So hyper-local innovation and innovation investments will be the solution or part, at least the start of what you're speaking of. So our goal would be to tell that story and to tell that message.
I would add one thing, though. You've brought this up a couple of times, Michael. It is about money. If you look at what the Florida Council 100 is driving in South Florida through the Gold Coast Tech Program, they've got Stephen Ross and Ken Griffin. You've got the founder and CEO of Related Ross and the Citadel, both joining hands, not figuratively, with $5 million each to fund promotion. And you got Palantir that's dropped in. It's not missing that we need to create and communicate an identity. And when you try to be all things to all people, you end up being nothing to anybody. And one of the things that, again, back to what Miami did, not that we want to be Miami, but because we're Tampa Bay. But you got to pick your narrative, you got to pick your lane, and you got to tell the story. And it does take money to do that.
And we're going to make it happen. Go ahead. Closing out.
And just because my last role, I was in economic development, so there are recruitment efforts. So I was with the St. Pete EDC. There's the Tampa Bay EDC. We helped ARC Invest make their decide, brought them around St. Pete to understand what the vibe was. So there are recruiting efforts, and they work with the state as well. I don't know exactly what they are anymore because it's been almost 4 years since I've been there, but we used to work with like Visit St. Pete Clearwater and go up to New York or go to Chicago and go to different cities and have like ad campaigns and a whole thing. So there's definitely efforts going on. If you follow the EDCs here, you'll see that the companies that they're announcing that are moving here. But there definitely probably needs to be a bigger combined effort. And so with what you guys are doing, you should definitely reach out to the economic
Because they don't know we're
development
coming
partners.
back to them to ask them for help. I just announced the idea. So in about two to 3 months, you'll be like, oh, they made it happen. But that's what we're really doing. So thank you, Meghan, for that. I just want you all to know, every person on this stage has spent years building something they believe in. The question in the room just spent an hour on is whether those somethings add up to a system. Tampa Bay's next decade will decide that answer. But more than deciding that answer in the next decade, the 4 leaders that you see in front of us are going to be a key component to giving that answer. So if you could, with all due respect, please give them a round of applause and thank them for me.